Have you been ghosted? Ghosting is that 8-letter word we all hate. But unfortunately, ghosting just seems to be one of those natural occurrences in the dating world these days. Ghosting can be hurtful and confusing. Was it something I said? Was it something I did? The 7 stages of emotions seem to come flowing through when you've been ghosted. I think it's probably happened to all of us at one point in time. And it's never going to stop. So today, let's talk about ghosting. But first, make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. I will love you. Well, I'll love you whether you do or not, but just do it for me. So the topic is ghosting. First, let's talk about the differences between being ghosted as ABDL and being ghosted as a non-ABDL. Yes, there is a difference. First, for non-ABDL. When somebody from outside any kink, fetish, lifestyles outside the norm get ghosted, they have a whole range of support to fall back on. Friends and family. And these support networks can help them overcome being ghosted pretty fast. Not saying that you ever fully recover, but they do help them to recover pretty quickly. ABDL, DL, on the other hand, ABDL, DL is a niche interest that a lot of people don't understand or refuse to understand. ABDL is already feeling a sense of rejection and loneliness and shame. Can enter your emotion there. So when someone ghosts someone who is ABDL or DL, it can feel like they're being rejected and judged just for being alive, just for being who they are. But being ghosted can be very hurtful. And let's face it, being ghosted, the ego kind of takes a 1-2 punch. So let's look at possible reasons one would be ghosted. Number 1, lack of compatibility or interests. I know at times we all think we are the most important people to walk the planet. I know, I've been friends with numerous of them. Someone would be crazy not to want to talk to me or date me or listen to me or be with me. They'd have to be absolutely out of their damn mind. But there are just times when your interests and the other person's interests just don't stack up together. They just don't meet. Maybe during the course of the conversation, they feel that the two of you just aren't compatible. It can happen. That's why you communicate with each other. It could be that you two just aren't compatible. A lack of attraction, maybe. And instead of being honest and saying, hey, I don't think we actually match up, they choose to ghost as a way to avoid confrontation and conflict. Which brings us to number 2, fear of confrontation. I think one of the biggest fears people have that they refuse to accept is the fear of confrontation. Person number 1, hey, I don't think we're a match. Person number 2, why not? We have similar interest. Yeah, but I don't think we have enough of an interest. Or is it just that I'm enter your own emotion? Or you're just too much of a enter your own insult? That's conflict people just would like to avoid. And the conflict that scares a lot of people. And you have probably seen these type of conflicts before, or conversations, or whatever you'd like to call it. So instead of dealing with confrontation and conflict, where feelings can really be hurt, they may find it easier to just disappear or cut off communication. Usually within the first paragraph or 2, I can tell if somebody's going to be very confrontational. I learned that from being in the retail industry. But rather than deal with the conflict or discomfort, they just choose to disappear. And aka ghost. Emotionally unavailable. Number 3, maybe during the course of the conversation, they start to feel like they are not ready for a committed relationship or to possibly take on a new friendship or anything of that nature. It can happen. They may resort to ghosting as a way to avoid emotional attachment. If I barely know you by, say, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, even a month or 2, there's not as strong of an emotional attachment. So maybe they choose to ghost you as a way to avoid the emotions. Number 4, feeling overwhelmed. In some cases, the other person may feel overwhelmed by the intensity or the pace of the conversation or relationship. Let's face it, some people can be very, very high maintenance, not realizing that people have lives that are offline. And as a result, with all the stuff they have going on offline, and they come online, and now you're wanting them to come online more and more and more, they're probably feeling suffocated. And this could lead to ghosting as a way for them to escape, to get their life back, to be able to do the stuff that they need to outside of online instead of constantly being online or constantly be looking at their phone. I'm surprised there's not as many fatalities concerning vehicles and pedestrians as there is. Because I saw a guy sitting there looking at his phone. He walked across the damn entrance to the parking lot. He didn't lift his head up once from his phone. He just continued walking, and it was a very busy time of day. So I'm surprised there's not more fatalities out there. But maybe the person decided it was time for them to start focusing on them actually being safe while walking down the sidewalk. Let me give you an example of somebody who can overwhelm you and who doesn't understand the word no and the word stop. Let me just give you a little example of that. A year or so ago, I met this girl online. Before I go any further with the story, let me just state, I made it perfectly clear from the beginning, or at least I thought I made it perfectly clear at the beginning, that I was gay. I was not looking for anything romantic. I'm not looking to be anybody's caregiver, their big, their daddy, or their dom. That I was a little and not a caregiver, not a big, not a daddy. So after we talked online for a few weeks, we decided to get together for a play date. The play date went good as far as I was concerned. Well, the next day, things became, let's just say I wasn't ready to go to war with the Sarah army. She started sending me texts calling me daddy. I told her I wasn't her daddy and to stop calling me that. Then the pictures came of her in her diaper, saying she needed me to come over and change her daddy. I told her not gonna happen. And somewhere along the way, we apparently became boyfriend, girlfriend. She started calling me her boyfriend. Not really sure where that came from, but in her little mind, we were dating. I told her, I said, I'm gay. And I told you at the beginning, I am not looking for anything romantic. She saw me at a restaurant with another little. Oh, the texts I got from that one. From cheating on her to somehow, some way, I became transphobic. I told her, I said, first of all, I'm not afraid of trans people. Secondly, if she was trans, which it would appear she was, I had no idea. But it doesn't change the fact that we are not dating. My heart belongs to one person and one person only. I'm not going to get into the Friends, aka Sarah Army thing, but let's just say some restraining orders were issued. I guess this really didn't have anything to do with being overwhelmed. I guess I just need to get that off my chest. Okay. Pay attention to what people are telling you. Number 5, differences in values, goals, and expectations. Maybe the other person decided that your expectations and their expectations just don't match up. Maybe your expectations and your goals are significantly different than theirs. So they decide to abruptly end the conversation without explanation. 6, fear of hurting the other person's feelings. Maybe they just lost interest in the conversation and ironically believe that by them disappearing will be less hurtful to you or to the other person. Then provide an explanation to give the other person some closure. Personal issues. Number 7, life happens. It can change from day to day, minute to minute, second to second. It is possible that something came up that the other person just cannot avoid. And they really don't have the time to maintain an online conversation or relationship. They may choose to ghost to give themselves some time to deal with the issue. Imagine how crappy you'll feel if they stopped talking to you and ghosted you because a loved one passed away on them. Imagine how crappy you'll feel when if they come back and say, "Hey, what's going on? How you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, you ghosted me, you son of a bitch." And all of a sudden you find out their mother passed away. Number 8, the person could just be an asshole. You could just be someone's form breaking the boredom. Or maybe they're just in the conversation to get off. And once they're done, the conversation's done. Number 9, maybe it's just you. The reason someone ghosts you could be something as simple as you. I know a lot of people feel like the world revolves around them. They have their own gravitational pull and love to make the entire conversation about them. Maybe you're too clingy, not taking them into consideration, always one-upping them, getting upset when it takes more than a minute to respond. I know there's a lot of us out there. We've seen that one, right? Could be 6, 1, half a dozen other things. Now, while these 9 reasons may shed light onto why someone would be ghosted, it's not an excuse for such behavior, within reason. Open and honest communication is crucial in any relationship, romantic or not. So now let's move on to possible red flags that may tell you that you're going to be ghosted. While it's not always possible to predict if someone's going to ghost you or not, there can be signs that, when combined, may give you a few red flags that this person may possibly ghost you. 1, decreased communication. That's pretty obvious. If they're not communicating with you anymore, or if they're decreasing the amount of communication they give you, then chances are they're starting to ghost you. But decreased communication should be a red flag, a red herring, whatever you want to call it. If you start to notice a decrease in the frequency or even the quality of the conversation from the other person, like going from paragraph responses to one line, or sometimes even as simple as one word, this could mean the person is becoming less engaged with the conversation and maybe slowly pulling away, which at some point would become ghosting. Number 2, lack of planning or commitment to future plans. If the person consistently avoids making plans or hesitates to commit to things like phone calls, video chats, meetups, this could indicate that they are not really invested into the relationship or the conversation. It can always be a major red flag that they are not really who they say they are, but that's another topic altogether. However, this could be a red flag that they are going to be ghosting you soon. Number 3, mixed signals. If the other person's behavior becomes inconsistent, or you feel they keep sending you mixed signals, for example, showing interest 1 minute and distance the next, this could be a sign that they are unsure of their feelings or their intentions, as well as unsure about your intentions. This could lead to being ghosted. Number 4, they avoid deeper conversations. If the person avoids or deflects conversations about the future of the relationship, the friendship, avoids talking about their feelings, or any potential issues there might be towards the relationship, this could be an indicator of a potential ghosting. Number 5, increased use of excuses. If people consistently use excuses as to why they can't talk, why they haven't been online or answered sooner, again, answered longer than, say, a day or 2, this could be a sign that they have or are losing interest in the investment of the conversation or the relationship, gradually pulling away. Because some people, this one I'm kind of on the fence about, because some people need the entire damn roof to fall in on them before they get the hint. A hint that someone just is not interested in communicating with them anymore. Now, remember, these signs are not a definitive proof that someone will ghost you, as everyone's circumstances and behaviors can vary. But I have learned that if you notice a number of these together, that is a major telltale sign that you're gonna be ghosted. Now, let's talk about ways to possibly prevent being ghosted. Remember, this isn't the complete, do everything step by step and you'll never be ghosted again, because remember, there are dicks out there. Be clear and understood. From the early stages of the conversation, relationship, whatever it is, either it be romantic, sexual, or just friendly conversation, make sure to prioritize open and honest communication. Urge the other person to express their intentions and their expectations. Maybe they're just looking for a conversation to combat boredom, or they're just looking to get off for the night and they're looking for their next one night stand or their next hookup or whatever the case might be. So if the conversation is getting just a little too sexual and that's not what you're there for, let them know. This conversation is getting a little too sexual. This isn't the conversation I want to have right now. If they stop communicating with you, hey, you pretty much just avoided a bullet. Just make sure that your intentions, what you're doing online right now, is make sure your conversation is clear and understood. Be mindful of all those red flags out there. Pay attention to any signs out there that could be considered red flags that could lead to potential issues. Lead the conversation away from topics you are not comfortable or ready to discuss. Set and respect boundaries. Clearly communicate your expectations for the conversation or possible relationship. And let them know, be clear and understood about the conversations you don't feel comfortable talking about. Keep yourself in check. Remember, there are two people involved in this conversation, this communication, this relationship. Sometimes we can talk about ourselves so much the other person loses interest. The other person says, hey, maybe this person is this the way it's going to be? It's going to be all about them the entire conversation. They might want to talk about themselves too. There's a friend of mine, every time she comes over, it's all about her, all about her, all about her. It's usually about work, her dog, and something else she wants to throw in there, something she read. But you're fighting for airtime. I did win the lottery, and one time I told her, I said I was pregnant. I said during the midst of her conversation, she says, 100 miles an hour. And I told her, I said, I'm pregnant. And she's like, oh, that's nice. And so she wasn't even paying attention to my damn conversation. So keep yourself in check. Read everything that's said. Don't just gloss over the conversation. If you're going to meet up, make sure to read everything. Like I said before, they could just be looking for a one-night stand or a hookup. Here's an example. A number of years ago, I was on this site. Me and this other guy started up a conversation, which would lead us to a hookup. I call it the great hookup gone wrong of '08. We agreed to hook up that night for pure sexual only. Nothing more, nothing less. A one-night stand, if you will. Well, it would appear the next day we were dating. I don't know why people seem to think they hang out with me once and we're dating. I've never figured that one out, but there it is. Though I thought I was perfectly clear it was going to be nothing but sex during our online conversation, he still took it as we were dating. Oh, the hookup gone wrong. So make sure you understand the expectations of the other person. Remember, ghosting is never fun, but it's something that happens to us all. And let's just all be honest with each other here. Let's be transparent. I guess it's a big word that people like to use these days. Let's just be transparent. We've all ghosted somebody at some time. Let's just not sell any bullshit here. Let's just be honest about it. If you get ghosted, just remember Q-tip. Quit taking it personal. If it happens, there's nothing you can do about it. All the crying, the blues is not going to resolve anything. Just as they used to say on Sesame Street, pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start all over again. Messaging the person to try to get yourself some closure can open up a can of worms that you're probably not going to be ready for. Remember, the more you push, the more resistance you get. If you get ghosted, just drop it and move on. If the person has, as we said, their mother died or a loved one passed away, that they couldn't avoid it and they had to go away, they're going to communicate it with you later. But at the time, they need to get away. If they don't, and they're just dicks and they didn't want to talk to you about it, then, hey, you dodged a bullet. It could be something you did. It could just be the other person. Whether you're ABDL, DL, a furry, into any other kink or fetish or lifestyle outside the norm, or maybe you don't check any of the boxes above. Being ghosted is not a reflection of your worth or your value as a person. It's about the other person's inability to honestly communicate. People are people. Life's not fair. Life never said, you go as far as you can and I'll meet you the rest of the way. You're going to run into all types of people. Some nice, there's assholes. So remember, when somebody ghosts you, take it as a win, because you probably just avoided a bullet. My grandmother told me this. She says, here's 3 fingers. She's like, don't sweat the small shit. Everything is small shit. My grandmother, dirty old woman. So there you have it. That's my 2 cents. So like the video, subscribe to the channel. Until the next time, stay little, stay happy.